Hi boys, and welcome to Spark. I hope that you guys had fun. Last week we did a service project and wrote thank you notes to all of the staff here at Christ Memorial. I can tell you that the staff loved it, and almost everyone has their letters from you guys hanging up by their desk. This week we're going to be back into our lessons of reading about people of the Old Testament, and this week the person is Isaac. Now, Isaac was born to Abraham, and he was the promised son that God had promised him when talking about the passage of having as many ancestors and generations as there are stars in the sky. Abraham obeyed in faith, and God provided a ram for a sacrifice, and that is the story that we are going to start with. So if you'll turn in your Bibles to Genesis, which is the first book in the Bible, we are going to start with chapter 22 and read verses 1 through 19. This section is called Abraham Tested. Sometime later, God tested Abraham, and he said, "Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. Then God said, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on the mountain that I will show you." So Abraham early the next morning got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then we will come back to you." Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father, "Father?" "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "The fire and the wood are here," Isaac said, "but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son," and the 2 of them went on together. When they reached the place God had told them about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld your son, your only son." Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over, took the ram, and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the place, "The Lord will provide," and to this day it is said, "On the mountain the Lord will provide." The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed me." Then Abraham returned to his servants, and they set off together for Beersheba, and Abraham stayed there. Now the next section we're going to read is also from Genesis, but we're going to turn to chapter 26 and read verses 1 through 6. This section is about Isaac. Now there was a famine in the land besides the previous famine in Abraham's time, and Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gerar. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and will bless you. For you and your descendants I will give all these lands, and will confirm the oath I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and will give them all these lands, and through your offsprings all nations on earth will be blessed, because Abraham obeyed me and did everything I required of him, keeping my commands and decrees and my instructions." So Isaac stayed in Gerar. Now in that section, there's a lot of promises that God makes, but it's the same promise said over and over and over again. And in the end, it says that God keeps his promises and that Abraham obeyed God in all of his commands. Abraham obeyed because he trusted in God. And do you feel when Abraham obeyed because he trusted God? Do you feel like you can trust God? I know sometimes it's hard when he's giving you instructions like he did Abraham. I can't even imagine how difficult that would have been for Abraham to take his one son that God had given him and bring him to a mountaintop to be a sacrifice. If we look up Romans 8 verse 28, your next question in your journal is, why can you trust God even when it's hard? So I challenge you to look up that verse on your own and see what you think. I think it's interesting when our key verse this year is, for what was written in the past was written for our instruction, so that we may have hope through endurance and through the encouragement from the scripture. So much of the story of Abraham and Isaac reflects to what God did and provided when he sent his one and only son to be a sacrifice for all of us. Abraham was told to sacrifice his son just like God sacrificed his son Jesus for us. So when you look at the Bible, it's not just little stories, it's one big story altogether, that when you read from the beginning of Genesis all the way through the end of the Bible, you can see how God makes promises and God always keeps his promises and provides for us. I hope to see you this week in person, but if not, if you're joining us virtually online, I hope that you have a good time with your lesson. And if you have any questions, just message me on Facebook through our Kids Discipleship page, or you can email me. I hope that you guys have a great week and enjoy the beautiful weather.